All right, my good friend.
All right.
My Catholic friend. We've been through. Trisha's yelling. Trisha's in the background over there. You know, she's our peanut gallery.
All right.
We've been through a little bit together. We're kind of, I'd say we're pretty close friends by now, don't you think so? Do you think so?
Think so? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't leave him much choice there.
Yeah. Put me on the spot. Yeah.
We've had these little chats.
We have.
They're very, and we've had a lot of chats. We've done a few on camera.
Yeah.
But today we've got a different one. We're here for a different purpose. We're here because you told me some what I consider really bad news. You have prostate cancer, and what's your prognosis?
They say it's aggressive metastatic prostate cancer, and it's inoperable, and it's in my spinal column, vertebrae, and the hips, and 2 different regimens of treatment, each of which, if they work fully effectively, will give me about 18 months. So I'm probably looking at 2 to 3 years in the best circumstances.
That's best case scenario.
Best case scenario.
What's worst case?
6 to 12 months.
Okay. And when you told me this, you were laughing and kidding around about it.
Well, I call it my prostrate cancer. It makes me prostrate.
And you have an admirable way of thinking about life, period. I mean, you know, even if you weren't facing this, I feel such a kinship to you because we both feel the same way, I think, about death.
Pretty much. That sort of eases the degree of acceptance of the situation, knowing that I'm 80 years old now, so it's time to ease into the checkout lane anyway. So this, in a way, this is a left-handed blessing, and that I have time to prepare for it, and it won't be a surprise. And a lot of people don't have that type of blessing.
What are you gonna? How are you gonna? What's your plan?
Not sure I really have a plan. Just continue to live the way I've been living until I'm not. Yeah.
You remind me in ways about me because I feel like I found a way to live that I'm at peace with.
Right, yeah.
And it seems like the same as with you.
Yeah, exactly. It's changed a little bit in that I've always had an acceptance of death in the abstract, sort of intellectual way, but now that it has a sort of date certain, it changes the focus and the emotional aspect of it. That was a surprise.
Has it changed the way you feel about your religion? Are you any more afraid to die because you're Catholic than you would be if you weren't Catholic?
Interesting. No, it's not that. I guess what I was pausing to think is that has it changed my relationship to my religion? In some sense, yes, in that I've focused on it with a finer degree of focus than I did before. Sort of like a microscope where you have different objectives, 10x, 100x, and 1000x. So when I was living life at 10x, now I'm living life at 1000x. So it's actually just a more focused, intense essence of the same thing.
How has that manifested itself? How are you different now than you were 6 months ago before you got this diagnosis? I mean, the way you live.
I'm focused and active with the important things more, and the trivial things are pushed to the side.
How's it changed your relationship with your family?
Well, in a simple sense would be like when my son wanted to come over to drop in for a visit. A year ago I would have said, well, I'll be out riding a bike, I won't have time for that. Whereas today I would say, well, you know, I'm going to delay riding the bike to make time for him. So it's really just, I'm doing now more of what I should have been doing to begin with. And it's helped me focus on the true priorities of my life.
What have they said to you?
I don't think they've noticed that so much. They're still wrestling with the acceptance of the situation that their old man is going to die.
Are they trying to tell you that you're going to be fine?
No, because they know better. They're well educated, and they can see the numbers just like I can. But they're wrestling with the acceptance of it.
How would you characterize the way they see it?
Startling, upsetting, concerning, frustrating, but not unexpected, because they know that someone my age has a 70% probability of developing something like this.
Is this any kind of a side effect of Parkinson's?
No, but Parkinson's aggravates it.
Yeah.
And causes some problems.
I think from what you've told me, you're looking forward to, not looking forward to, but in the future you're going to see an awful lot of pain before you die.
Yeah, like yesterday when I couldn't get out of bed. I had to get my wife to pull me up out of bed, and then I couldn't walk because the metastasis has settled in my hip joints, and I had nausea. So yeah, some days are better than others. So I just deal with it as it comes.
You've been a good friend to me. A lot of people would avoid an atheist at all costs. And now I like to refer myself more in terms of a humanist, because it's a more positive way of... An atheist describes what I'm not. A humanist describes
Right.
really my affirmation to always do kind things for people.
Yeah, and that's better all around, rather than to define yourself in terms of what you're not, than define yourself in terms of what you are. Yeah, I agree.
The way you have treated me throughout all this as a conservative Catholic is not like any conservative Christian has treated me. You've been accepting of me, even though you don't agree with so much of what I believe. You've been very accepting of me. Even though you are conservative, I think you understand that Donald Trump is not a conservative. I'd call you a mainstream conservative. Am I right?
Yeah, I'd say I'm actually what I describe myself as is a 1950s Democrat, a Stevenson Democrat, which makes me a conservative today.
Yes. Eisenhower Democrat.
Yeah.
That guy was, he was as much a Democrat as he was Republican. I think he must have tossed a coin to decide what side he was going to go with, because they were both begging him, please, please.
Well, he was exactly right.
Yeah.
But in the past, in the 50s and even early 60s, there was what we would call a liberal branch to conservatism. Jacobs, Rockefeller, and people like that, and
you said something to me in terms of conservatives and liberals today that I took note. I took note of this because I'd never heard you say such a thing. You said, I've never heard a conservative say this: all wars are evil.
They are. Because they involve the deliberate taking of a human life. But then again, you have gradations in evil. Some evils are greater in their effect and intent than other evils. For instance, if I were to sit here and just stomp on your foot, that would be a bad or evil thing to do. But if I were a government official responsible, like Hitler, or in North Korea oppressing or killing thousands of people, that would be a greater degree of evil. So there are gradations in evil.
I see what you mean. But because I think part of the reason that you come to this conclusion is what's going on in Israel right now. Am I right?
Yeah, it's sad to see so many innocent men, women, and children dying, even though what Hamas did was horrendous. But again, we're talking about, which evil is more evil than the other evil. They just say, the hell with the whole thing. This has got to stop. And
two wrongs don't make a right.
Exactly. So, but then again, you have to deal with the Christian concept of the inherent fall of mankind and our fallen nature, and we're prone to those things, and they must be dealt with. So that's the challenge.
Tell me how that informs you. The Christian aspect on this, how does that inform you on your opinion?
There's a range of reaction to that, from the emotional horror of seeing the Israelis killed like that, and 1,000 Israelis killed, and the children and women dealt with like that, and then a few weeks later seeing what's happening to the people in Gaza, a similar type of situation. So it's a horror on both sides, and trying to justify one against the other, after a while the divisions become blurred, and you just have to say the whole thing needs to stop. And especially at this time of a development of our civilization, we have so many more important issues to deal with, and we're still carrying on like we're living in 1200 AD.
Now, I'd like to ask you, if you would like, this is an opportunity for you, and this is something that I will keep private. This is an opportunity for you to talk to your family post factum, after your death. You can tell them anything you want to tell them. You can tell me, I don't want to do that. But I thought, if you want to, you can talk to each member of your family. Just look into the camera or look at me, either way you want to, and tell me, what are the most important things you want them to know?
Wow. That would require some preparation.
Okay.
But right off the top of my head, I would say my initial reaction would be, I really don't have anything left to say to them that I haven't lived out, and that my life is my statement, and the successes and failures that I've experienced in my life and caused my children pain or joy speak for themselves. There's nothing to add to that.
Do you have regrets?
I remember listening to the lyrics of a song that said that I have so many regrets. They're like birds that fly up in the sky and darken the whole sky. Lots of regrets, of course. Things that I would change. But over the years, I've changed and grown so many times, and I'm no longer the person now that I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. There's a metaphor that's used. It's called some Greek philosopher's name of a ship. I think, I've forgotten what it is, but his idea was that if you have this ship and it goes out, it's a military ship, and it goes out into battle and comes back and it's filled with holes and the sails are torn, and you replace it. And a few years later it goes out again and the same thing happens. And this repeats over a period of 10, 15, 20 years. After the end of 20 or 30 years, is that the same ship now as it was when it first went out?
Good point.
And that's pretty much the way I am. So am I the same person I was when I had my first child? Yes. No. It just depends. So, yeah. So I think what I say to my children is not so much just that I love them very much and I did my best even when I made so many mistakes. I'm sorry for that. I would change it if I can, but I can't. All I can say is that their interests were the priority of my life, even when I made my mistakes.
I know what I want to ask you.
Yeah.
You're at a stage in your life now, and you're seeing your own death ahead of you. Because of what you've lived through, can you give any of your children or any of your family any advice?
Well, the advice I would give them is that you must, of necessity, have a moral or ethical foundation to your life. That's going to be your compass, that's going to be your keel. Because otherwise you won't know which direction you're going, and you won't be able to make a decision with any consistency. You'll be just subject to the emotion of the moment. And I'm not saying that it has to be Christian. I'm a Christian, I would advocate that, of course. But it could be something else. But without that moral and ethical foundation to your life, you would just flounder around and make mistakes and be directionless.
Have you found a way as you age, and I found a way to do this as I age, have you found a way as you age to, instead of immediately reacting, shift back, go into low gear, and find a way to get kindness to come out?
Yes and no. It's interesting that you asked that, Rod, because ideally what you want is the kindness to come out spontaneously without thought and without hesitation. And sometimes that happens, but sometimes that doesn't happen.
That's right.
So what I try to do now when I'm in a situation and with, say, with a group of people, I'll say to myself when someone makes a statement, do I have to respond to that? Or should that be responded to? Should I respond to that? Should I respond to that now? And after I go through that, and if it's still yes, then I'll say something.
Okay.
But otherwise, I'll try and keep my mouth shut.
Well, if you can do that, you're a better man than me.
Well, usually, if I can think, if I can delay my thought 2 seconds, I won't say it.
Yeah, I this morning I dropped something and made a mess, and I yelled, "Damn it!" And I thought to myself, why can't I train myself to just laugh at that? Because every now and then I do laugh at that.
Right, exactly.
But it's so hard.
It is. It's very hard to do that. Yeah.
Well, I can say in closing that my friendship with you has been incredible. I'm so glad that we met. I'm so glad that we could go on our bike rides together.
Yeah, same with me. It's been a real pleasure.
And our Super Bowl parties have
Yeah.
been quite
And the other thing I want to say about your being an ex-atheist and a humanist and how I react to people is Scripture tells us that we're not supposed to judge people. And that refers to the state of their immortal soul, whether they're going to heaven or hell. But it also tells us that we're supposed to be fruit inspectors. And what I mean by that is we look for the fruit on the tree. And for instance, when I look at your tree and I see the fruit of kindness, compassion, caring for people, going out of your way to help people, I see the fruit that we would call a Christian tree. Now you can call it a different name or put a different name on the fruit. You call it a
altruism tree.
Yeah, you can call it whatever fruit you want to, like, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So that's what you look for in a person's life. And I think that's what our Lord thinks of when he looks at a person. He looks at that, not the nameplate that they're wearing on their shirt. I'm a humanist, I'm an atheist, I'm a Catholic,
Yeah.
I'm a Protestant, I'm a Mormon. It's, do they love one another?
What's interesting is as I've moved away from Christianity, I've always clung to the person of Jesus. That, and I'm just going to say it, that staunchly radical liberal, I love that guy. I think he's fantastic. I just cannot abide the supernatural stuff. But I'm just going to say it, if Christians would be more Christ-like, everyone would love Christians.
Well, exactly. Well, like Chesterton said, it's not that Christianity has never been tried. People have looked at it and not tried it, and so it's never really been tried. So, exactly. So, to me, you're a fine Christian, call it by any other name. So, people get hung up on names and labels, and rather than do people simply love one another, care for one another? That's the important thing.
And
if
I might interrupt you and say that you, sir, are a very fine humanist and an excellent altruist.
Thank you. I take that as a compliment.
Okay.
Yeah. And for someone who says that they love the figure of Jesus, how could they not be a Christian? That's the essence of being what a Christian is. So I think we too many times get hung up on labels and not on the result of our relationships with people. What does that really look like? What's the bottom line? Not what you call it. How's it lived out?
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you believe he got me to admit I was a Christian?
Yes.
He said you love Christ. You love the figure of Christ.
Well, sir, to you I say, namaste.
Namaste.